Hey, Randy, thanks for
Hey,
coming on the show today.
yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet.
We
Well,
made
I'm
it.
excited that we could do this here, joining me in the new studio and
Love it.
yeah, jumping off with season two. So thanks again for coming on, and I'm glad to have you on to hear about what you've got going on and a little bit about your story.
Excited to be here. Excited to be here.
Well, what have you got going on right now? It seems like you've been pretty busy with your current company. I know you've told me that you have multiple businesses, but I believe it's Complete Solids Control is where that's your primary business in the oil field, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. So, started complete 6.5 years ago, but our time in the solids control fluid management space of the drilling side of the industry, that career has been a 19-year career this year. 19 years.
Well,
So, thank you.
congratulations.
Yeah.
So quite the evolution, I would
Oh,
think.
yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's been quite an evolution from when we started 6.5 years ago. So that's been keeping us really busy. And what led to the birth of Complete was integrity centrifuge services. So my career as a solids control technician in the field led to me and my wife building our own rental company. So we were basically providing the service companies equipment,
Hmm.
renting it, so repairing
That's a
anything we
good
could.
segue into business ownership because you're running the equipment, you're maintaining it,
Mhm.
but and it's something that a lot of different companies need.
Yes, yes, and it's crazy the industries that these machines are in as well. Like I've just learned a couple years ago, these are centrifuges. They're decanter centrifuges. You have two-phase, three-phase machines, and your two-phase basically you install them on a drilling rig, and they're, just imagine big filtration units. They're out there to polish mud, to clean mud, to keep everything keep the weights at a certain weight, and they have a lot of benefits out there as far as reducing wear and tear on the rig's equipment.
Okay.
Keeping the bit cooler, keeping helping keep pressure in check for the hole, and so there's a big role they play. But outside of the oil and gas industry, they're in tortilla factories, they're in the wastewater
Oh,
industry, they're
okay.
cleaning up
Yeah.
all the waste. They're or they'll use a filter press or belt press in place of a centrifuge. They're in the cannabis industry.
Interesting.
That's a very interesting one. They are paper mills, dredging.
So you can really be versatile.
You can.
And it sounds like it's vital to the
Oh,
functioning of everything.
absolutely, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's. I mean, we're a growing company, but we have a fleet of upwards 40 units now, which starting in 2018 we had two.
Wow.
Yeah, well, actually, I didn't even have two. I was renting two.
Okay.
So, the growth has been cool. It's been wild. It hasn't been pretty,
Hmm.
but hey,
You hung in there and
yes, man.
worked it out because there's always that the growing pains
Oh yeah.
of anything that you do. But I imagine owning a business, being in West Texas, going through COVID,
Mm,
like there's so many different levels of challenges.
absolutely. Yeah, and praise God, like COVID was a real thing for everybody, right?
Hmm.
But at that time, we were like, we actually expanded across 3 different states during that time. So it's crazy the way things will work out,
Right.
especially
Oh
in our
yeah.
industry.
Hmm.
So when you're losing everything right before your eyes, the same day you're getting a call
So you
that,
just kind of pivot.
yeah, yeah. But it wasn't a luck thing. Like we didn't strike luck or nothing like that. That was what happened. Was it was 3 years before that, my hustling, my networking, my connecting, and knocking on doors and building relationships 3 years prior to that was the reason for that phone call during that time.
Okay.
So had I not been out there doing what we all got to do to survive in our
Hmm.
industry, like I said, shaking hands, meeting people, building my network, building trust before I even work with operators, like next thing you know, that's the phone call you're getting.
You know, it's interesting when you plant those seeds, but you don't even know what it could turn into.
You don't. You're right. It could be nothing, but at the end of the day, and that's why, like when we bring guys on to into the company, we like to look at how can we help these guys grow, right? Like outside of the oil field, kind of like with the football team, right? I head coach my son's flag football team. Like, there's a good percentage that these players are not gonna, maybe not even want to participate in the NFL or professional sports. So we can't just focus on football. We got to focus on life skills, discipline, obedience, respecting your mom and dad,
Yeah.
speaking to your teammates with respect,
Mm-hmm.
being vocal, things that we never had nobody teaching us. So
Right.
that's what we're doing when we bring guys into the company too. It's like, you don't know what's going to happen when you're networking with people. So why are we just going to train guys to be solids control technicians?
Mm-hmm.
We got to train them to be better men, right? For their
Absolutely.
wives, for their children, for whatever it is they're going to go and do in life. So we're trying to,
Yeah.
change the face of the backyard, if you
Oh, I
will.
love that. No, it's a really great way to put that too, because you're building the fundamental skills, and you're right. You know, it's like if you didn't have that kind of upbringing, or
Mm-hmm.
you didn't play sports, or you didn't grow up in that kind of family dynamic, then you're unconditioned for the world.
Yeah.
You don't know how to take care of yourself. You don't know how to
Yeah.
support yourself, and so for you, to really see that big picture,
Mm-hmm.
and want to help sculpt and mold young minds like your son's flag football, or anyone that comes to work for you,
Mm-hmm.
you're really paying it forward and giving them a different way of seeing things, not just trying to train for a job, but really be
Right.
prepared for what life has in store
Yeah.
for them.
100%. I like that too. You be unconditioned,
Mm-hmm. Well,
not
and
ready.
it's something that like I've noticed in anything that I've ever done, the more conditioned I am, like you're saying, like in the backyard,
Mm-hmm.
doing all of this back work, like taking care of yourself, working
Mm-hmm.
out, eating right, being
Yes.
spiritually aligned,
Mm.
having morals and values, all of that preconditioning sets you up to be successful no matter what you decide to go and do.
Amen. Yes, that's 100%.
And that's what I think, that it's like if I could start all of this all over again, and
Yeah,
have that mindset and be conditioned, I can only
man,
imagine how much easier life would be for me
that is
now.
so true.
But once you decide to dive in and you commit to that, it's a game changer.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Like it took 38. Well, I'm 42 now, but it took 38, 39 years to get to that point. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
to understand all that. So yeah, you can pour into the young minds early on when the world's trying to pull them every other direction, and steal their identity and not know who they are in their faith. And I mean, that's going to happen. It's going
Absolutely.
to happen quick. So
Hmm.
you know it's no different. I say this respectfully, but even at 42 years old, us, man, like a lot of us are kids. A
Yes,
lot
that
of,
is very
you know what I
true.
mean.
Hmm.
So we're like one of our ops manager, James, he put it like, I'm paraphrasing, but like herding turtles or cats. You know what I mean? It's like we love them all and respect them all, and we still have a lot of growing to do too. But man, um, I don't think that could ever stop. Like pouring into them at any age.
I agree, because you hear someone's age and you think that there should be some type of maturity, but the maturity comes from your inner work,
Mm,
and you can live 50 years and never have done any of that deep work, never have
mm,
done any of that conditioning, or
yeah,
you can be dedicated at 25 or 30 years old and be way ahead of that curve if you have that mindset. But we live in a society, it's just pumping out just random information. There's no
mm,
structure, there's no real guidance, and you're trying to conform to the crowd so that you have acceptance and you have opportunity based
sure,
on that identity of groupthink, or that identity of belonging somewhere. But if you don't know who you are, or you don't have mentors, you don't have leadership, then you're going to struggle and you don't even know how to tap in.
Mm.
But when you surround yourself by people, when you have mentors that you work for and you're following influential people on social media that are actually about something, that are being real with you, that are trying to tell you, hey, stop being so soft, don't feel sorry for yourself, get to work, work on you, then you can excel at any age. But I agree, it's like you don't ever stop pouring in, because there's so much in this world that we can experience and we can grow with. But there are some that are lagging because they've never had that conditioning from the start.
Yeah, and the longer you wait, the more difficult it is to break through that. Because then you're 40 something, 50 something years old, stuck in your ways.
Yeah.
You're trying to peel back years of trauma, years of I do it this way. There's no other way to do it. It's almost like a lost hope, if you will. But at the end of the day, I feel like I'm 42, and I'm still soaking up game from everybody I come in, into a relationship with. So, but I'm the influencers in my life and just family as well. I'm always looking to elevate.
And that's awesome. That's a mindset.
It is.
And 42, 52, it really doesn't matter, because you've set yourself up for success, and you and your wife work together, you have your family, you have your structure. So there's no better time to have that mindset about elevating, because as you elevate other people, you're going to elevate yourself. And now you've had these different experiences as a father, coaching the team, and you're able to do things and provide that kind of guidance that you didn't have at their age. And so then you get to kind of, like you said, peel back those layers, like from childhood, that you're now seeing in hindsight.
Oh yeah.
And you can grow in a different way from that. And it's not always fun, and there's always going to be some regret and different emotions that come with that.
Oh, yeah.
But then there's wisdom and there's opportunity for more growth.
Big time. And one of those things I took away recently at practice was, I noticed that we were not performing very well in games against teams that we should be, the teams that we've already blown out. I'm talking 38-0. Going back 2 weeks later and playing that same team and winning 6-0.
Oh, okay. So something happened.
Something happened.
There's some regression there.
Yes, and it was like that for the whole spring season. And we made it to the Super Bowl, and like we didn't perform the way I would have liked, the way I know we could. I was like, what's going on? So it was like, I noticed that. It took weeks to figure this out. Well, life is crazy, right? Like, we're busy. We got more going on than just that.
Yeah.
But I finally had a minute to think. I'm like, well, these kids are not having fun no more. Like, they're not having fun at practice. Because why? Because I'm coaching bad. Because I'm more focused on just being perfect, on just perfecting and mastering everything, right? And putting a bunch of plays together and losing the quality time focusing on one play, one project, and being a master at that. Too busy trying to absorb 20 plays and do them all, and steal the fun and the joy out of why we're there, which is more than football, right?
Yeah.
So once me and our coaches got together, I was like, we got to start having fun again, man. We got to start like letting these players compete and change practice to where we're finding how to connect with them and what makes them have a good time at practice related to football, and do those things and get back to, fun and exciting and explosive drills. And then then their attitude will change, right? Yeah. So I kid you not, like we started this like 3 weeks ago, and they have completely, like, you can't even recognize them. You can't even recognize them.
Just that shift.
Yeah, and they're, having fun. I guess I say all that to say, like, as serious as we have to take everything, we got to have fun with it too. And that was to a point you had made, and I'm just like, wanted to bring that up because at their age, it's also at our age as well.
It really
We
is
got to make
because
sure we're having fun
it
and that there's
translates.
joy,
Yeah.
right? With if you're not with the right, if you're not having joy in your business with a certain customer or vendor or partnership, whatever, then you know we need to find a different place to be
Mhm.
or different people to connect with that'll bring joy back into
Yeah.
what we do.
Yeah, and I've noticed that because as long as I've been in oil and gas, like there's been certain positions that I really enjoyed, but maybe it wasn't the right company, or I really enjoyed the company, but there just wasn't a lot of room for growth. There
Mm.
wasn't opportunity in my role, and so as I've grown and found different different avenues, because there's so much opportunity in oil and gas, you can make it
Yeah,
whatever you want it to be.
sure.
To be an entrepreneur, to excel, to own a business, to do anything. And so I started really looking at, what am I good at? Who am I?
Mm.
What can I contribute? Because as much as we want to enjoy what we're doing, that feeling of knowing you've provided value or service, or you've made a difference, whether it's helping out your customer, or you're
Mm.
able to support a nonprofit, or like all the different things that we're afforded the opportunity to do in the oil and gas industry. You really got to evaluate who you are,
Mm.
and how you are going to fit the best, how you're going to be able to be the best version of you. And then that translates into your personal life, that
Mm.
translates into your relationships. And but then, like you said, it's not like there's just this one thing that's going on. It's like, then it's the ebb and the flow of the industry, the hustle of it, the demand, the highs and the lows. So then, like you said, it's like you've got to pivot.
Mm.
Like whenever something falls away, it's like, don't dwell on the failure.
Mm.
Look at what's opening up to you. And so it's like, I always have to remind myself of that. It's like,
Yeah.
don't dwell on what didn't work. Understand that you're growing, and new opportunities can
Mm.
emerge from that, and then you're still going to take all that wisdom with you. So
True.
you're not wasting time, you're not losing anything, but being able to step out of it and see the big picture. Like,
Oh
you
yeah.
need to enjoy what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you always need to check in with yourself like that, and make sure that you're aligned with that higher purpose, with who you're trying to become. You're looking at who you've been, you're not dwelling on that,
Mm.
you're not beating yourself up, but you're learning from it. And so you can learn from the past just as much as you can learn from what you're doing now.
I love that. Yeah. And that's the thing, because there's like you said, you're not really losing. There's wins inside those what we think are losses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, you may lose a job, you may lose this contract, you may lose, but there were so many wins in those experiences. So as the future comes into becoming the present, you're walking into these better situations.
Yeah.
Could be a year,
Yeah.
could be a week, could be 5 years, and that's a good point. Wow, like we could go really deep with that one, but like it's been a total recreation for our business, complete. Like we've everything from, man, just policies to practices to our personal identity, to our appearance online, to our graphics, to our banners on LinkedIn. Like it's just been a total recreation because we've learned from the past, right? There were some jobs that we were with for a while, we had for a long time, then you end up losing them. Whether it's one person, whether it's me, whether it's a team effort, whether you just dropped the ball bad enough or you fell on your face and it was a wrap. Like, but that's why we are where we are right now.
Right.
And I'm like, as bad as that sucked back then, I'm sorry. Man, we are truly loved and appreciated by our customers.
Right.
And they tell me this to my face. So I'm not like,
Just
can I
like
look at
saying-
that? Can I look at that
You can
camera?
look wherever
Okay,
you
cool.
want to.
All right. Are they all? Okay, cool. Yeah. So like, we're not just fluffing that or blowing that up. Like
Yeah.
I got receipts for that.
Right. No, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I think that it's, if you can withstand the growing pains and understand that, like, to be successful at anything, you have to be a beginner.
Mm.
And to be a beginner, you have to know that, like, you're not going to be all that
No.
at the jump.
No.
Like, you might have some skill.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, we've talked before about, like, this is just who you are. You've always hustled. You've always found a way to be a salesperson. And, it's just, once you got the opportunity to get into oil and gas, you saw that industry. It was aligned with you. It worked for you. But this could translate in any aspect, any business
For
practice.
sure.
It's like you have to be okay with being a beginner.
Mm.
And it's like when I started my podcast, I was like not feeling that great about
Yeah.
myself when I was seeing those first few episodes. But it's
It's
like I
been so
also,
good though. You guys have been
but
killing it.
you have to be okay with looking foolish or
Sure.
losing relationships or having to
Yeah.
admit like, hey, maybe I got in over my head or
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't right for me. But we live in such a world that is about appearances,
Mm.
and people will make everything look nice and pretty when you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. But to be able to put yourself out there and be vulnerable
Yeah.
and to be raw and say like, all right,
Yeah.
I'm in this. But when I think that being able to withstand that,
Mm-hmm.
because you got to be able to
You
withstand the
got
storm
to.
of
Oh
the
yeah.
beginning.
100%.
But when you allow yourself to evolve and you're like, you know what, I'm going to change this, I'm going to change these graphics, I'm going to change the way I present this,
Yeah.
and you start seeing that evolution,
Mm-hmm.
it becomes a lot less about how you look or feeling bad about
Mm-hmm.
yourself. It's like you get addicted to that growth,
Sure.
and then that shift in your mind of knowing like, hey,
Recreating.
we're
Yeah.
doing this, we're growing, we're getting
Yeah.
better. And then you're able to see those new goalposts in the
Oh yeah.
future. So you're going to attract better quality people, better quality contracts, you're going to be able to do a better job, have a better
Agreed.
team. So you've
Agreed.
got to be able to be fluid with
Mm-hmm.
all of it.
Yeah. That's that's hardcore. And so I mean that's the truth. Like I said, that's why we're able to do and operate and move how we are today and be with the customers that we are today is because we, you know,
You went through
I
that.
went through that. Like it sounds horrible, but like, I'm thankful for that.
Mm-hmm. I look back and I'm thankful for all of it too because I can see the lessons. I've
Yeah.
got the wisdom and I'll dig in. I think that it's called shadow work
Yeah.
where you study yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You look at like, the darker parts of yourself, things that people block out, that they run away from, that they don't want to remember,
Yeah.
uncovering traumas, things like that. It sucks.
Sure.
That is hard
Life
work to
sucks.
do. Yeah,
I mean,
but
it
if
can get.
if you can go back into all of that though and you can see like, you know what, those people weren't right for me,
Mm-hmm.
or that was never the person I really am, or I just wasn't in the right story, I stayed too long, like no
Mm-hmm.
wonder that relationship didn't work out, and you take responsibility for it even if it's not your fault. It gives you power
Mm.
because you're choosing now to say, well, what did I learn from that? Who am
Mm.
I now? And I can be better tomorrow because of it. But if you
Mm.
avoid all of that work, you carry those burdens and they live inside you and it limits your potential.
I mess you up. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, I guess you could just be call it like practicing, right? Like for example, like you're if you're trying to take things to the next level and whatever it is, it's a battlefield. It's a probationary period.
Yep.
It's practice. It's like there's no losses in that because when you're practicing to be perfect, how are you really losing anything?
Right.
Right? If that's the goal is to be elite at everything you do,
Yeah.
Jordan lost a lot,
And
but
well, and
still
see,
went
and
down as a great. I mean, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
you
all the
hear them
greats.
like they say like, well, I missed all these baskets, but everybody
Hmm.
just focuses on how many he made. But it's like you have to be in it.
Hmm.
It's like you see people in weight loss pictures, how they lost 100 pounds. Everybody just wants the loss. They
Yeah.
don't want to go through the
No.
journey, and it's
Ooh,
that journey that you didn't abandon yourself and that you chose to seek self-mastery so
yeah,
that you could be better at life, that you could be a better version of you. And that's a choice, and you have to be brave and you have to be resilient to losing people, to
yeah,
feeling bad about not being better, not done, having done it sooner, and to go on that kind of journey. I mean, it's lifelong. I mean,
hmm,
we're never going to get there.
sure,
We're never going to be perfect. But it's like when you get up every day and you strive to be better,
mm.
your life gets better. Like, don't let the outside influences bring you down or distort your thinking or make you think that you can't have it too, because you can and anybody
Agreed.
can. But it's back to what we were saying in the beginning, it's about mastering those fundamentals.
Yeah, man, that's powerful. Yeah, and the thing is, like, when you get to a certain point, especially we'll talk about business since that's what we do a lot of, is like the team. At some point, you got to have the right team. So as you're changing and you're striving for excellence and you're striving to be better every day, right, than you were the day before and the day before that, you're going to lose, like you said, you're going to lose folks, right? You're going to lose physically, and they're going to, and then also just like, who are you?
Yeah.
I don't agree with that.
Right.
You're getting up too early.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
You're changing. I don't
You're
like
changing.
it.
Yeah. Like that's, because, but eventually that's what you want, because you don't want those people here when you're here. It's like it's just not allowed. You know what I mean? You can't, because you won't be able to get there, for one.
Right.
You see what I mean? They'll just be holding you back.
That's
and then
a
the
big
people
one.
that you need in your life, you may not have them at that point, because I know I didn't.
Yeah.
Right? I was trying to pull everybody.
Yeah.
Cousins, brothers, family, friends from school. You know what I mean? I wanted everybody along for the ride, because like we didn't have that growing up. You know what I mean? So you want to bring everybody with you, and you realize that's not going to work.
Right.
Because they don't want to go. They just want the 100-pound loss right now.
Yeah.
Or they don't want to see you make it without them making it too. But there's levels to that. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, there's someone's whole life savings on the line there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, there's different rewards for different levels of what you're contributing to the vision. But everybody gets there. So what, you see what I mean?
I do, because, I've seen a quote recently too. It's like, people want to see you do good, but not better than them.
Yeah.
So then there's that, you've got that competitiveness or the fear of getting left behind, or like suddenly you're not as available to them as you used to be, or they don't understand how to change, or they can't. I've had to remove people from my life even recently, where I realize they're holding me back because they can't figure out how to change. And it has very little to do with my growth.
Sure.
It's their inability for their own growth.
Was that easy for you to do?
Well, once you come into that understanding, it was, because it's hard to let people go, but it's simple. It's like, well, they're not who you thought they were, or they're not capable of vibing on that level. And it's like, you choose you and you grow, or you suffocate by them holding you back. Yeah. And so that choice is simple. It's not easy.
I guess it sucks that you got to make that choice.
Absolutely.
And people don't think it bothers you, but it does.
It does.
But those are people you love.
Yeah.
Those are people that you want there. But
you just can't. You've got to make that choice. And the choice does, I think it gets easier, because it's like, it's hard enough to grind on your own, but you have and you're trying to carry all these people up the mountain with you. Everybody has to go on their own journey. And I think also, when you separate yourself and you realize that it's not personal that you're leaving these people behind, it's like, man, if you're going to go on your journey, like, we can refuel each other's tanks. We can have great conversations like this and be encouraging, but you're still going to have to go out on your own. I'm going to have to go out on my own. And if you have somebody that's just along for your ride, like, that's a lot of baggage to carry.
It is.
And especially if they're like not encouraging you to grow, or their dialogue is negative, or it's
costing you so much along the way.
So much.
Just setting you back.
Yeah. And so I think that, especially, and so like because you have to grow as a person to be successful in business. And I think that the stronger you are mentally, and you're aligned, your morals and values, like, your business is going to thrive on its own. Like, you're still going to have to go through the learning curves of implementing policies and getting to a point where you can streamline and having the right team, things like that. Things are always going to happen. But you need your foundation secure. You need to be right with who you are, your spiritual center, your family life, your home life, all of that needs to be taken care of. If you try and go out into the world and that's not all aligned, then you're going to get swept away with the current. Yeah. And so I think it's really important to keep it real and know that it's always an ongoing process, but at the end of the day, you got to be true to yourself, and you got to do what's right for you.
That's so cool that you're there. Like, I mean, they're getting older, like, like you start to, you network, you connect, and you meet so many folks that are there with you.
I love that. There are fewer people to meet,
Yep.
Because, it's like when you're young and you're partying, I mean, everybody's partying, everybody's chilling, everybody's kind of doing the same stuff. And then as you get older, your life changes, and it's like, well, if people over here are married with kids, people over
Yeah.
here aren't, there's like two different worlds happening. Or if you're not growing, you can't have the same conversation with someone
Yeah.
that isn't growing, and so your circle gets smaller. Those connections get fewer, but they get
Mm-hmm.
deeper
They
and they're
do.
more
They
meaningful.
definitely do. I tell my daughters too. Like speaking of kids, like, uh, they're 16, 13. They're at that age that so many things matter that don't matter.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I just wish I knew that. How do we always wish we knew that?
Oh my
I'm like,
gosh,
I
I
could eliminate
wish.
all your
Yeah.
stress right now.
Mhm.
I could eliminate all of it if you could be 42, where I'm at for just a little bit. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like,
Oh, absolutely.
I tell you, you're gonna grow up and you're gonna have like deep relationship with maybe one person that you know from school. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe
maybe.
one.
Maybe.
You know what I mean?
And I'm cool with that.
Yeah, so cool with it. Like, because again, once you're on a trajectory somewhere, right? You're on your way up somewhere. You're going to lose a lot of people,
Mhm.
but you will have the people that you need in your life
Right.
because that's who you're going to attract.
Yeah, and I've
You
learned
know.
that. And that's something that, once I learned that, and you got to be okay with being on your own.
Mm,
That can be nerve-wracking to do things on your own. But once you enjoy your own company and you're confident in yourself and you can do things on your
mm-hmm.
own, then you can handle a lot more. You don't need all those people. You don't need to answer all the phone calls. You don't need to
Yeah.
be, in the crowd. And then that's, I feel like you said, that's where you're really going to attract the right people, the ones that are trying to make it too, the ones that can
Mm-hmm.
help you, that
Yeah.
are like-minded,
Yeah.
that have the same, similar interests, that are about something. They want to be somebody.
Yeah.
It's not just about that short-term gratification of, being somewhere where everybody's at,
Mm-hmm.
or feeling like, okay, I'm not alone, so I don't have to deal with my stuff. I don't have to
Yeah.
be afraid. I don't have to be vulnerable. There's a lot of ways to avoid that kind of growth, but if you tap in and you're willing to commit to that,
Yeah.
then that's when you're going to get to those levels.
100%. So you talk about being alone. Like, did you grow up with a big family or a lot
I
of support growing up?
No,
Or
I didn't. I
yeah,
didn't, and I didn't have genuine support. No.
sure. Which
This
made it easier for you to be able to probably
one,
tap in on things like that at
Once
an early age.
I recognized that, I was pretty much on my own, I think that was when I I was okay with, I'm just different. But
Yeah.
it was still like I felt like I was always trying to find somewhere to belong. And
I think we all do that.
and that was a lot of, but honestly, it's like the chapters I've lived in my life, because I did that, it gave me a lot of texture and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
life experience. But at this junction, I can look back, and my only regret is that I wish I wouldn't have wasted so much time on the wrong people, including my family. Lots of friends
Mm.
and people that have fallen away over the years, businesses I work for that have now dissolved for one
Mm-hmm.
reason or another. And so for me, it's, the more I feel like I know myself, I'm able to discern who's right for me and who
Sure.
isn't. And so there isn't the animosity or resentment that I once had, where it's
Yeah.
like, wow, you guys really weren't there for me,
Mm.
and I didn't get that. Like, I just didn't understand it for a long time, and I always thought something was wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that you can feel wrong when you're with the wrong people.
Absolutely.
And so when you separate yourself, it's no longer about, I'm wrong and they're right. It's like, man, we're so
Mm.
different.
Yeah.
We don't even have anything
Yeah.
in common. And so I really, I love my freedom. I love my
Mm-hmm.
solitude. I'm very independent, and I'm very unique. And
Yeah.
so when you're unique, it's hard to fit into a crowd.
Sure.
And I learned a lot by trying to fit into different crowds, realizing that that's just not who I am.
Yeah.
And so that was rewarding when I got to that level.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. So, I can relate to that too. That's how it was, childhood all the way till today. You just know, like, you're different.
Yeah.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
Wish I'd have known that at 13
You
and
could
14
go
and
back
15.
and,
Yeah.
like, the story would have been different. I wouldn't have squandered so much time.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have wasted so much energy. And then, like, then you do things
Yeah.
that aren't really who you are,
Mm-hmm.
because you're so lost,
You're trying to
and
find that
you're
identity,
trying to find
you
that
know?
identity. And so I think that that's a big, problem in the world, is people trying to find an identity, and there's a lot of falsehoods out there. And so you find a group, and you want to belong to something or
Yeah.
somewhere, and so you're like, well, I'm going to do I'm going to conform to this group.
Mm-hmm.
And so then, but that's not who you are. So your
Right.
true essence is always going to go against that grain,
Yeah.
because at the end of the day, you have to be true to yourself. And if you can't do that, then you're angry, you're bitter, you're making the wrong
Yeah.
decisions, you're attracting the wrong people. Things are happening that they're not contributing to your growth. You're regressing. And so I think that it's, again, like, business and personal,
Mm-hmm.
it's the same thing. Like, figure out who you are,
Mm-hmm.
what you're good at, where you have value, where you find people that are like-minded, and everything else works itself out. Like, you
Yeah.
do your back work, you study your past, you get your wisdom, and you prepare for the future. You start thinking about what am I doing tomorrow? How did I grow today? And
Mm-hmm.
you become your own support system, and suddenly you surround yourself with the most amazing energy.
Mm-hmm.
You are that energy,
Yeah.
and you attract that energy. But
Exactly.
but you have to get to that level of
Mm-hmm.
understanding, that level of maturity
Yeah.
and mental resilience, because it's really hard not to be emotionally devastated by people that were supposed to support you but beat you down instead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's tough. Yeah. And man,
That's a lot.
that's a lot.
I mean, it's
That's
heavy,
awesome. That's
but
great.
again, it's like
It's
it's super deep, but it's
yeah,
very
but
simple.
that's crazy. Like that's where I am right now at 42. Like we're just coming into this whole new awakening over the last couple years.
Hmm.
And a lot of it's been through business, because that's been like the most consuming thing of. We've been building this thing for 6.5 years now. You know, it's been a lot.
And that takes dedication, and
Yeah.
the highs and lows and the changes in
Yeah.
the industry. But I think that, like, once your journey, your road gets more narrow, you are just committed to that one
Yeah.
track, and that's everything, because to do anything great, it takes complete focus.
Oh yeah. Well, and if I can be perfect at this, or at least wake up every day, right, with the intention to be the best at it, the best at it, perfect. It's going to continue opening doors outside of Oilfield, which has already been happening.
Yeah.
So, we.
To be able to expand
Hmm.
and cross over.
Yeah, we got a lot of mouths to feed. And
Yeah.
I wasn't, I wasn't, I don't want to say left anything, like handed anything, but like I didn't even. I guess we could have been, had all of us boys been on the right track growing up, but you can contribute that to just being, in a broken environment with broken family, which is why it's so important. I keep going back to the youth, like the kids, is like you see so many broken families in your football team, and you wonder why we grow up with no identity, and we're 30 something years old still trying to find out these things, and not, we don't have
Hmm.
any confidence in who we are, what we can do, or where we want to go, why we want to do it. um, but yeah, so we're building so much under our roof.
Yeah.
There's so much to build, because there's all the things, right, that we want or don't want our children to have to worry about or grow up without. Not just like, I don't mean just from a financial standpoint. I mean like spirituality, our faith, their confidence in who they are. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Their commitment to each other as brothers and sisters, their bond, you know what I mean? Like there's a lot going on.
There's a lot to
There's so
instill.
much building that we're doing. It's absolutely insane. I forgot my wife's birthday yesterday.
Oh my
And
gosh.
dude, we are that crazy. It's that busy.
Right.
It's that crazy.
Hmm.
I made it up though. We're all good.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah. She's like, it's my birthday today, right? And I was like, oh my gosh. I knew that. And I did. I was actually working and thinking about her birthday and what I was going to get her and do the whole week, but didn't realize. But that's just, again, we are like, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Good things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good things. And we're trying to be in the best shape of our life and the best health. And that's a big deal in itself right there. So
That's a daily commitment.
Yeah.
And, I think that being able to be dialed in like that. I mean, you are going to forget things, things are going to happen, but it's like you wake up every day and you're striving to be better than the day before. And so I think that you're there.
Yeah.
You know, you're on that
We're
level
here.
where it's the journey
Yeah.
of staying committed to that and committed to each other. And I really appreciate you coming on the show today and
Yeah.
talking about it. And
Thank you for having me.
it's really been a pleasure.
We got to
And-
do it again.
Yeah, no, we do.
for sure.
Absolutely. And we appreciate everybody watching the show today and for supporting Power of the Permian. We'll see you next time.